Troy, Russia, Russia, Russia. That reminds me back in the day. Marcia, Marcia, Marcia.
Oh, yeah. What was that TV show?
The Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch, yeah.
But listen, guys, we're talking about the Olympics and doping.
Doping, yeah. Do you know where that word doping came from? You know, dope?
I thought it was somebody being stupid.
It's Dutch for dupe. It was a word
D-O-O-P. You dupe somebody.
Dupe, yeah, right? And it referred to like a really thick sauce, kind of a creamy, heavy-duty sauce.
Okay.
And back in the day, opiates were really thick and viscous, so they called it dope. Dupe came from dope. And now we know smoking dope, doping. It all came from that.
Wow, from a
history
sauce.
lesson.
Hey, man, I learned something today.
Thank God Brandy's not here to call me a damn nerd.
Yeah, believe me, when she sees this, she'll call you a nerd anyway.
She will. Yeah.
Matter.
No, but doping's been around since people have competed against each other, right? Everybody wants an advantage.
Sure, of course.
And it's, in our parlance, doping is illegal. You can't use enhancing drugs to, make yourself better at something.
Well, nowadays, but in history, in the past you could.
Yeah, the Greeks used to use figs, and they thought that helped them out. The Egyptians used to use mushrooms.
Yep. Oh, well,
I don't know what kind they used. You can run fast.
Yeah, while you're not moving.
Moving in place.
Am I moving fast now? Yes. No.
Yeah, and then they actually there was ground up mule hooves. I mean, there's all kinds of shit. I mean, the Chinese still do that crap, right? They have all kinds of shit like rhino horns and stuff to help enhance their libido and stuff, but I don't think any of it's proven. They just got no dicks.
You got to remember, I mean, the Chinese are the ones that, started the whole snorting thing.
That's right.
They snorted everything, man. I mean, you name it, they snorted it.
So they eat stuff that's still moving. They snort stuff that's dead.
Yeah.
I'm not living there.
Now, you know what? I mean, that's a fascinating culture. I know we're not into that, but that is a fascinating culture.
Yeah.
Okay, so this 2022 Olympics, we had one Russian skater, Kamala, 15 years old. She has no clue what they're giving her. And did they disqualify her?
They did not. They brought her to the Olympic board. They said she's too young to know better. It should be put against the coaches. So she was allowed to compete. So she was using some blood heart supplement, right, that helped her to like invigorate and be able to compete. She's a figure skater.
It was a freaking upper, dude.
Basically, right? Yeah. And they allowed her to compete, and the pressure was so heavy, she ended up falling twice in her final. And she, by the way, that she was figured to be the very best figure skater in the world. And she was proving to be, but then the pressure got too much, and she fell twice in her final skate and didn't place. And it really messes up all the medals too, right? Because until they figure out what goes on with her, nobody else can get their medals. So other people came home without medals until they figured this whole thing out. Just a damn mess.
Well, and the sad part about it is you got this 15-year-old that, hey, she just wants to skate and have a good time, and it's the adults that screw the pooch.
It is, yeah. And moving fast forward, I remember watching the Olympics in the 70s and 80s, right? Do you remember the East German women? They were huge. And East Germany said, screw you, we're going to load our ladies up with steroids, right? And you'd watch these swim meets, and these girls were enormous. I mean, they were pecs and biceps. I mean, they were huge. And the East Germans thought, hey, you know what? This will show the world the superiority of a communist country because we are big, nasty, and we can beat everybody. And I think the women of that year, the swimming team in East Germany, won 11 out of 13 medals. They won like 40 golds. I mean, they cleaned up. Yeah.
That was in 72. That's when Mark Spitz won all his golds.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was tested. He was clean. But it happens. But you know what year it was that was the worst year in Olympic history? Was 2012 in London.
2012, okay.
132 athletes tested for opioids.
You know what's interesting is they know they're getting tested, right? I mean, it's part of the protocol. Tested. So how do you load up like that and expect not to get caught?
That's true. And in 2000, our golden boy tested positive, Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, that was the big the Balco conspiracy. The company that was making what was it called? THG.
THG.
And he had to give up. He won 7
to Tour de France.
Tour of France's in a row, and he had to give them all up. And there was a big. I don't see the movie. Did you watch the movie?
I didn't, but the thing is he had 18 different types of enhancements in his blood.
Rhino dick.
All the way from elephant whatever to, who knows, well blubber. But, I mean, this guy was like, I'm surprised his heart didn't give out.
Yeah. Well, that did happen a few times, right? You mentioned one earlier. What was that? We were talking off camera a little bit. The biker. The
biker. That, he took, God, what was it? That was in 68.
Was it laudanum or something like that?
I forget the thing. It was
but he loaded up, right?
No, you know what? I'm looking at it now. 1960, a Danish cyclist, Markjensen. He had so much amphetamines in him. While he was riding, he passed out, crashed, and was dead instantly.
Dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what cost?
But they didn't know back then. How much do we give him?
Yeah.
Give him another syringe.
The big one for me, Hammer, was 1988. That was Ben Johnson from Canada.
Yeah.
He was like, oh my gosh, look at this guy. What a runner, sprinter guy he was. And he came up heavy doped. And I think he had to give back all of his medals as well. But that was like the modern era, I think, of like coming back into realizing that all these athletes are doping up. And you got to wonder, is it the athletes themselves doing it? Is it their team doing it? Back in like the 70s and 80s, was it the country doing it? But it's just really sad to know that you can't, just compete clean, The
one that I think is funny is the Swedish guy, Hans. 1968 Summer Olympics. He was so nervous he had a couple beers before he went out on the track, and they got him for that, and he disqualified him for a couple of beers.
There was another guy in the Tour de France.
How has it changed?
Yeah, I forgot what the guy's name was, but there's another guy in the Tour de France who passed out and died, and they did an autopsy, but they didn't have to do his body so much. They took his riding jersey off, and he had what do you call that? Amphetamine. How do you say that word? I just lost it.
Amphetamines?
Amphetamines, basically.
Yeah.
Sewn into his shirt. So he's like this full, getting it while he's riding is just pumping himself full of amphetamines so he could just and just ride away.
Well, the interesting thing, the 2016 and 2020 Olympics, they really cracked down. Rio de Janeiro, they only had 16, no Americans in those 2 years have done it. So the Americans have, the federations have decided, guess what? We're not going to play this game. Are they going to do it right, or you're not going to do it at all?
Yeah.
And think about it. 2022, we had one person.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's right.
Okay, so far.
Yeah, and that does not to say that America is, clean on this whole thing. Major League Baseball went through a huge HGH, right, growth hormone. Barry Bonds got busted a couple times for that. Alex Rodriguez got busted doing that, but it was a big thing. I mean, you look at these baseball players.
Mark McGuire.
Mark
McGuire, man.
Mark McGuire was big with that, yeah.
But think about it this way. Everybody's always looking for an advantage. I get that. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure they've figured out something else now, and we just don't test for it yet.
Well, and that's what they're all doing, right? All the chemists around the world are looking for something that's not traceable that will help you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And hey, I totally, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was Mr. Universe, he was, taking steroids and all that stuff.
He was roided up hard. Yeah.
But it was okay then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, that's what they did. I'm cool with something that works and that's safe.
But not in competition.
But,
one gets all get, right?
Well, here's the deal. Yeah, one gets all get. I totally agree with that. But here's the deal. It's also dietary. I mean, listen, you might be from one country, another country. You don't get this product that they get, and it can be that simple, right? Like you were talking about dates earlier.
Yeah.
So I think that as long as the federations keep up with it and say, hey, you can't do this, and everything else is fair game, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
Go at it.
If I get to take the powdered Jaguar penis so I can run faster,
right?
Then you should be able to have it too.
Right.
You know what I did when I was running? I was a big track guy and football guy in high school and sometimes in college. But what we did to get advantage when I was running mile relays and stuff, we'd put down blocks. Remember the blocks, the spinners used blocks? Nobody back in the late 70s, which is when I was doing that, used blocks. And we'd go up to the starting line with these blocks, and everybody's like, what are you guys doing? We're getting that much faster because we're using a block to get off instead of like just standing up, right?
Right.
That was our advantage in the day,
Sure.
But I've myself have never used any, enhancing drugs for any kind of sports or anything like that. I don't understand. Well, it's not that I don't understand it. I just don't agree with it.
I was more of the Spicoli type, ordering pizza in history
Order pizza in the classroom. Are you going to share that? Yeah.
And I was getting ahead having that pizza in history class.
Hammer, I'd really like to know what everybody thinks about this, in our comment section, because it's a really controversial. Do you allow certain drugs? Do you not allow any? Is this poor little 15-year-old girl? Is her professional career screwed now? And by the way, she got hammered by her coaches when she came off the ice and fell down. Her Russian coaches.
She's already lost because what they did to her, and
absolutely, yeah.
What it's done to her mentally, as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So guys, let us know what you think. I think the coaches stink when they do that stuff, but let us know, man. Hit that subscribe. Love you guys. Next time.